What is up, guys? This is Alex from First Figures.
Hey there everyone, this is Chuckles.
Who do we have here? Ace Attorney, Phoenix
Wright!
Boom, Chucks, it's been a long time in coming. I remember like it was the other day. Boom, when we first actually sneaked this bad boy, probably about 5 years ago now.
That's right, yeah.
But it's we're so proud to finally be here to be able to have no more objections, no more take that, but finally we can now go on to show you guys all about Phoenix Wright and do this video. Now, of course, if you're new to this channel, we always do these making of documentaries to give you a little bit more insight into why we design him the way that he is, or some of the design decisions and the processes of how we did it. And yeah, you know, basically just give you a bit more of an insight, and we sort of get questions from people in the club, Jocks.
That's right. So in the club, that is the First Figures Official Collectors Club on Facebook. Every time we do a launch, in there we'll create a question, a thread actually, and then you guys ask us any questions you want with regards to Phoenix Wright, and then we'll answer as much as we can in this video. And yeah, so every time we do a launch, we'll post that out onto YouTube as well. So please do subscribe to our channel as well for further making of videos.
Absolutely. So, you know, definitely, as I said, it has been really long time. It's been a quite difficult process, to be honest with you, back and forth. It's been quite a lot of times we had to restart again and came back and changing and tweaking it here and there. But you know, definitely so happy that we're here. Finally.
Well, court cases do take a while.
They do, right?
They do actually.
Although, are you sort of going from any personal experience?
No.
You've always been a very model citizen.
That's right.
What about those on jury duty? Have you ever been on jury duty?
No, my folks have.
Yeah?
My own folks have, yeah. So.
Is that long?
No, he isn't. Like, he went in there and straight out. He didn't want to say that.
You're not guilty, you go. Anyway, absolutely.
Let's move that out of the way.
Yeah, okay. So, you have some questions for us, Jocks?
That's right, let's jump straight in there.
All right.
First question from Jonathan Dixon. With how long the statue was in development, and with so much back and forth between F4F and Capcom to get the statue approved, what aspects of the statue took the longest to get right?
You know, that's a great question. Jonathan, I know he's been a massive fan of Ace Attorney from way back when, and a lot of the things that we've been talking about, he says it's been quite a long time in development. That's absolutely right. I think we might have actually initially announced that we were working on a Phoenix Wright back in December 2014, perhaps.
That's right, yeah.
So, my gosh, that is quite a long time. That's coming up to
It was a black and white photo.
It was a black and white photo, yeah. So that was quite a long time. And how to say, yeah, you know, there was absolutely a lot of back and forth between us and Capcom, and the producers really hands-on, really going into.
We weren't going through any like legal issues, no back and forth court cases. We're talking about specifically the development of the statue.
Let's give him a spin as we're talking about that. Check it out. Yeah, you know, so definitely there was a lot of back and forth. It was also around about the time, I think Dual Destinies had just sort of come out, I think, at the time. And it was all about going from the 2D aspect of the original game, which obviously came out on the DS, and then going from that into the Dual Destinies. And I think we actually started initial work on it before it even was at Dual Destiny stage. So I think it was back when it was in the 2D sprites, of course, in those games. I had such a great time playing them back then, so it was such an honor to actually be working on them. But you know, there was definitely difficulties. We always find it tough when you go from a 2D sprite into something that is, you know, 3D. And a lot of the times, Shocks, it's the same thing when we do anime as well, where it's almost like a 2D image can be kind of sometimes inconsistent depending on what angles they are of. It's much easier when there was something more sort of hands-on. When 3D came out with the Dual Destinies, it made it much easier to at least have it a kind of goal to go towards, at least with that. And you know, that definitely helped a lot. So in terms of the back and forth with the producers, a lot of it was to do with, you know, the face, the clothing, the detail, the pose, a lot of these things. And why don't we just sort of go through a little bit of that? We can sort of say which parts were kind of difficult or not difficult to go into. So do you want to, Chuck? So why don't we start off with the pose?
Well, this is the iconic pose that you find in the game. Every time he's in the court, you know, when he's objecting something, or like, you know, trying to overcome some difficulties or whatever it is, this is the iconic pose that is pointing at the opposition.
Absolutely. So, you know, it obviously is that objection pose.
Yeah.
It's very iconic, as you said, and it's definitely, I think it was a no-brainer. We were going to be going with this pose. It wasn't like it was.
It's very dynamic.
It wasn't going to be. Well, it's as dynamic as you can get when you're in a courtroom situation. You're not going to have him busting over, you know, in an action pose, busting out guns, jumping over benches. It's none of that sort of stuff, right? And a lot of the time, when you're actually in between court cases, of course, a lot of the game is not just in the actual courtroom, but it's also investigating about finding clues, and that's all done in sort of looking at scenes rather than him walking around. And so you don't actually see a lot of Phoenix himself. You just sort of mainly see him in the courtroom. So it was not going to be. It was not a difficult decision to go with this type of pose. It was, you know, as you say, it's very iconic. It made a lot of sense to have him like that. So that was really straightforward. That wasn't too difficult. However, the subtleties of the way he's doing it was a little bit tricky. If you look at a lot of the promotional imagery, you can sort of see it's more like sort of like this. He's sort of more like this, where he's not actually looking into the camera. He's looking more to the side, along where his hand is. But this is pretty much the default angle that you sort of see him at. Because he's not looking directly into the camera. If you look directly into the camera, that's sort of quite hard to see from this angle. But I think that's sort of looking directly into the camera. One of the things we kind of sort of wanted to be sort of changing is the word. Sort of to be mindful of is the fact that the eye line and the hand is very slightly off. It's very slightly off in the sense that it's not like this. His head is quite straight, right? But the arm comes out a little quite outwards, and what I mean by that is his head is quite straight and his eyes are really looking that direction. So you see what I'm saying? Yeah, his eyes are looking like that direction, as opposed to him turning his head and being straight. Because the moment that you turn your head and be straight, then it would look more like, you know, turning your head would be sort of more like a profile shot. And you know, the imagery is more like this angle, but you can get a really good front-on look of his face. Now, if you were to be looking directly, as I was saying, as the way that you're supposed to be, if you're pointing at someone, the way that the head will be turning to go along with the angle of the hand or the finger, you'd really sort of turn your head and look straight down that arm. That's not what's happening here actually, because it's originated that 2D image that pose came from a 2D image. It was more important to sort of see his face. Because you don't see him so much, you know, every single time that you see him, it's got to be, you don't get much choice with it, right? So each time that you see him, it has to have a great impact, and the imagery that you see in the game is very much the front of his face, but his eyes are looking to the side, and then he's doing that pose, because it would be kind of weird if you were kind of doing it like that in the DS format, because obviously it's very, imagine like a screen, it's like this. Doing it like this allows you to have much more of the real estate of the screen. I don't know if that's the reason or whatever. Maybe I'm just sort of maybe I'm reaching here, but it was quite important that the head, we didn't just simply turn the head angle, because turning the head angle would then lose that kind of left look, because you see his eyes. You see how they're sort of the two eyeballs are really turned to the left. Yeah, that's because his head is quite straight on, and I think that's something that we sort of knew we had to get right, and you know, that was really important. So that was quite important for the pose. And Shock, do you want to keep going down through the rest of the post?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, this to me jumps out of the game. It's very bright, vivid. It's very cartoony because it just resembles from that game series. So it's very bright and colourful. The pose, obviously, is kind of the stance is kind of slightly wider.
It's got strength to it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's dynamic in the sense that, you know, it's definitely imposing in that sense. Kind of like, you know,
he's got some power, he's got some tension in it.
He's got something to say. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, like with his other hand, kind of like with a fist gripping hand, so it's like really, you know, really affirmative. Yeah. So and the way for example, the jacket kind of like swings open as though he basically did that movement and basically has a lot of movement in the entire upper torso.
You've absolutely nailed it, and a lot of the time was back and forth was about the subtleties of something like that, which overall makes it show out. So the way that the jacket opens up, it's not just hanging down, it's got that distinct blend that comes open, and even on the other side as well, it's got on both sides, you can sort of see it over there. It's really not molded next to his body. You have a tendency that you could just be quite, you could just sort of have it quite flat against it, but it won't give that kind of 3D look to it. So it was important to avoid that. A lot of the time was going into that sort of thing, Chocks, to make sure that that was, you know, okay to get that swing, and you absolutely nailed it. When you, because obviously you're obviously in suits all the time, right, Chocks, and pointing at people, yeah?
Some F4F suits.
So you bust it open, it swings open like that, it's swinging it open, the hands down, all of a sudden you have that motion, you have that strength in that pose, and I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of influence from the licensor giving us and telling us how to make sure that showed, and we wanted to, and then we captured that through their help.
I mean, the motion of him like pointing outwards, you can tell with the creases on the back, on his back shoulder and all the way to his arms. But the thing is, you can see the distance between that sleeve, the blue and the white, and the distance between that sleeve, the blue and the white. Because if this arm is resting down, the outer jacket should be over your shirt, but when you're stretching out, your jacket is pulled back.
So there you go. So if you look over here, you could just about see the whites of the cuff of the shirt, and if you go over here, you can see that there's a lengthening of the, well, not lengthening, just the fact that the
jacket's been pulled back because when you're stretching out.
There you go. Absolutely. Again, a lot of
suits, man, suits. F4F suits is exactly the right colour as well.
Absolutely right. Yeah, you know, you absolutely nailed it. So if we were going to talk about some of those details, Chocks, if we just finish off the pose, I think opening the legs again, it has that strength and that stance to it to give it all of that whole put your back into it, objection, that kind of whole thing. So you got it absolutely right. The hand comes out, the stern look on the face, the way that the eyes are looking to the left. And it's not just that, it's also, if you look at what can you see about his chest and the pose, the way that the chest is
being lifted up, right?
So he's got that kind of, he's like pulling out his chest, and it's kind of like there's a strength to it because of the chest, because of the clenched fist, because of the way that he's pointing, because of the way he's looking, the stance that he's got to open, and then that's exacerbated or emphasized, I should say, not exacerbated, emphasized by the movement in his clothing. All of that gives us strength of power that you can easily make this look a lot less powerful if you had a kind of sort of a more kind of timid sort of internal chest that sort of bends inwards. The pose is a little bit like that. Yeah, sure, you can still have the same pose, but not so strong with a fist over here. Your stance is a little bit more narrow set. They're not so widely set in between the legs. All of a sudden you have I would say a bit more timid pose. Yes, you're pointing, but it's almost like, you want to go over there, mate, take the first left on the right. Almost like just saying to someone where you're going. Whereas this, there is no question about it, Chocks. The guy means business, he's got something to say, and the pose, we feel, really captures it. Hopefully you guys agree on that, and you can understand a little bit more about that consideration. So, for sure. So Chocks, over to you to talk a little bit more about the details.
Okay, so let's go with the head sculpt. As always, start from the top. I mean, look at this, the hairstyle. Again, translating that from 2D to 3D, obviously the sculpting needs a lot of attention.
I think that's a good point. We're talking a bit about the face. Why don't you go on to the next question, Charles? So we can
the next question?
Yeah,
okay.
We can sort of talk a bit about it.
Alright, next question from Nanase. One of our members in the club.
Yeah.
As the face of Phoenix was quite difficult to translate into 3D, how closely did you have to work with Capcom on Phoenix's profile?
Yeah, as I said a little bit at the intro, it was a lot of back and forth, and there was a lot of things that we had to make changes of. Pretty difficult was the back of his head and the way that the hair spikes are. Because it's easy just to sort of draw them in, but then in a 3D modeling, it's got, can you see that you have like layers? It's almost like you know those jam body. What are those pachinko machines, right?
Right.
Where you throw the ball up in the air and it kind of goes in between like offset balls, sort of spikes. It sort of goes down there.
Right.
So you get like it hits that, then it hits one hair spike, it goes to the other side and then goes down. It kind of goes like that. So you can see, let's say you have 3 spikes like that. We have another 3 spikes that's offset from it, like that. So they're not direct. They're not like 3 and 3 directly on top of each other. It's more like offset.
Yeah.
And offset to get that kind of layering, offset layering between each one. That involves quite a lot of sort of draw overs and paint overs to get that right. Because you know you can look at your hair from this angle, sort of say at this angle. You've got that classic long hair at the back and it goes short and down.
Yeah.
And then I guess whatever you call it, the sort of hairs at the back of the neck, that sort of goes down. Whereas this one, it comes out here. It's longer, shorter, and then shortest at the back. You know, that was something that was important to do. And if you've got to see that from the 2D imagery, that's how it is. But then again, it's really, when you do the imagery in 2D, it's very easy just to have it completely black. And it's kind of hard to sort of see how it's done. But you know, it definitely involved a lot of back and forth with getting that right. So we worked really closely with Capcom on that. The paint itself, so we're sort of talking about the details. Can you see it's not just a pure black job?
No, because that was one of the things I was looking at. It has got kind of slight blue tinge to it. Yeah, you can see it. It's definitely not fully black.
Definitely not fully black. So if you go and look at the rest of the sort of details of the actual face, going into the eyebrows, going into the eyes, all of this was definitely something that we went through with Capcom. They were like, you know, change this, change that. They were very, very specific about it, and it was really great because they gave us real clarity and confirmation on how it should look. So have a look at those eyes as well, Charles, and talk about those eyebrows. They're quite unique, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of a zigzag near towards the end. Yeah, and they're sculpted as well. They stick out. Yeah, they're not smooth against the forehead, so they are sculpted.
Can you see those eyes? It's not just a single sort of normal colour eye with a black dot in there.
No, it has gradient. Yeah, it definitely has gradient to it.
It's not just that. Look how many lines there are around it. So you have the pupil, and then around the pupil you have another line, and then you have another line. So it's got an extra line that you don't normally have. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see it.
And it's this kind of vibrant grey to it. And if you've played the games, if you know it, you'll see that his eye is not normal. Maybe, unless you sort of really look for it, you wouldn't tell, but his eye is not just simply pupil and cornea and that's it. I'll show pupil and iris, I should say. The iris here has an extra line going around it, which is really unique. And if you're a Phoenix Wright fan, you should notice that. And then on top of that, Chubbs, of course, there is the gradient in there as well, where the lower part of the eyes is slightly lighter than the top part to give it that sort of shading to it. And yeah, you know, look, the mouth is the mouth. It's got a kind of subtle pinkness to it, as if it was to give some skin tone to it. And can you see the shading as well, Josh?
Yeah, the shading around everywhere, basically. The neck area, the ears, the side of the nose. It just gives it more depth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So if we look at the actual
individual strand, the flick in the front.
Absolutely, that's like his signature thing.
Yeah.
To have that individual strand there, and to have it slightly to the left as well, and you know that's definitely his thing. It's like who else has something like that? Not off the top of my head, but yeah, you're definitely the strand of hair should be going to the looking like that, coming. So he's got a really kind of unique look to him to have that. And the great thing about strong characters is you could silhouette him. And I instantly know what he is, especially if you do that pose.
Especially the pose.
Pose with the hair, with the single flick over there, and you're kind of straight away you're sort of there. So if we talk about the details of the actual jacket, you already started talking about some of the sculpt work with regards to the folds in the jacket, and that's definitely a lot to do with Capcom being very specific about how to do it and how it raises. So if you look over, even at the back, you see the way that it's ridging at the back over here, going across there.
Yeah. definitely. So it's like sticking outwards, so you can see.
And
that.
again, it's all to do with that. It's all to do with that pointing.
Yeah.
All to do with that pointing to really allow for it
so
to.
it's different. It's not just smooth and flat. Obviously, you can see the ridges popping out, and then with the highlights painted in there, just to give it some depth as well.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. That's for sure. And then, of course, you've got his sculpted ears, looking like it's. They've got the kind of folds in the ears, how it should be. The nose, that's all there. Going into the suit a bit more, the folds in the legs as well. It's all part of that, really. That part of the pose, the way it opens up. We had to sort of follow up that with. Once you have the basic flow, you then have to sort of bring some realism to it, and that, of course, is the folds. And that's pretty straightforward with regards to that. But let's have a look at the rest of his clothing.
Yeah, I mean, even the jacket pockets, the flaps, how they're raised outwards, and even the buttons themselves.
Yep.
Around the sleeve and around the front of the jacket. Yeah, these are sculpted in as well.
And I did a lot of reference by looking at how jackets look, and Capcom gave me a lot of references as well. The way you have the two lines at the top, and then it sort of has a flap, into the jacket pocket. So you've got that. So 5 years ago, I became an expert on on suits.
Tailoring, yeah.
On tailoring.
Yeah, I mean, the suit. Definitely different shades of blue. It's not just one solid blue. You get some dark blues.
You got the shading in there.
Yeah, and then you get the black wash on top of it, just to give it more.
So yeah, Chops. Going into it, there's more details. It's not just the jacket, of course. It's not just the chain. There's more details inside as well. Of course, you have the shirt.
Yeah, there's more layers than that. There's the waistcoat and the shirt and the tie.
Yeah.
But it's not all flat. It's just like the jacket itself. Then you move down a level to the
waistcoat,
where the waistcoat itself obviously has its own different creases and shades, and also it has its own sculpted grey buttons, so you can actually feel that going down across it. So definitely one layer of that, and then underneath the waistcoat would be the tie.
The tie,
because that would be above.
So it's like 3 layers. So
3 layers.
Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and then you have, of course, the shirt.
So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 4 layers. Actually.
4 layers.
4 layers, yeah, because you get the waistcoat, and then the tie, which kind of like bulges outwards, and then you get to the shirt.
You know how to wear tie trucks?
Yeah, no, a tie.
You sure it's one of those elastic ones?
Well, you can't.
You're like a.
No.
How about a bow tie?
A bow tie.
That's a bit harder.
That's a bit harder. Yeah. Not very often you wear a bow tie. Yeah.
Velcro.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But it's not very often you wear waistcoats in Hong Kong either, because of the weather. Yeah. But so very, very respectable man here. Everything all geared up.
Yeah. Sure. I was thinking, Jocks, having worked on Phoenix Wright, and of course now we're doing this documentary. I was thinking on the fly right now. Should we make it company policy to come in to work in this kind of suit?
Yeah, let's make it with a cosplay as Phoenix Wright.
I was quite thinking it as a cosplay because it's kind of like what people normally wear. Maybe we have to move the office more to Hong Kong Island rather than to do that. But a lot of fun working on that, making sure that he had the right layers. Of course, because Shucks, you can't. It's not like it's an alien creature. It's not like it's an anime, character where their uniform is different or whatever it is. This is something that you see every day. You see it in TV shows. You see them on films. You see them wherever, etc. On the street. People wearing 3-piece suits, so with the shirt, the waistcoat, and and the jacket, of course. So you can't hide that. Then how do you take that and then also make it cartoonify it? Taking something so realistic and cartoonifying it, and then having someone do a power stance in it. That's all what this sculpt is all about. That's how we bring that into it. And of course, as you're saying, all the details are there that you can expect. Even the line details over here, 1, 2, 3, where the where the buttons should go in. These are all things that Capcom were really specific about and made sure that we paid attention to that. And that was definitely something that we did. going more into, there's not a lot of skin to show, of course he's wearing a full suit, but where he does have skin chocks, you want to talk a little bit about the details that you see for that?
Yeah, for example, the finger pointing, so the colours are there, and I mean, because the fingers like that, you can still see the different creases inside. You see that?
Yeah. You can see the middle finger, the bending of the finger of the middle finger in that hole. So you can sort of see in that area. You can sort of see that.
This side.
You can see that part. And also, can you also see the fingernails, Charles?
Yeah. Fingernail, the top fingernail, and the thumbnail. You can't see the rest because it's kind of in that gripping hand.
You can see the thumbnail there.
You can with the right fist.
Yeah, you can definitely see it there. And on the inside part as well, you can see it. Yeah, and definitely you've also got some of the bending in the fingers at the point where you are sort of keeping your fingers straight. You've got that kind of bend. You've got that there. In the talking about the finger joints, and then of course on the back of your finger, on the back of your hands, you have these kind of tendons on the back of your hands. You can sort of see that off at the top. Can you see that, Chuck?
Yeah.
You can see definitely sort of see that over there as well. Yeah. All right. Cool. So there's definitely a lot of detail in there for sure.
Yeah, and then the shoes, black shoes, very formal. Nothing special about that, but there's also sculpted lines that goes around it, as you would expect from a standard pair of black shoes.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the base, there was a couple of things that we did with this one. The whole idea was the very bottom part is almost like it was what we're going for was like a hammer gravel, I should say, a gravel where you objection, that sort of thing. It's almost like the base of where you're hitting it. That was the inspiration of this part over here. And the top part, Chucks, do you know where that's from?
That's directly from the courtroom.
Exactly right. Because it makes sense that he's in a court setting, that he's going to have something like that. So it's exactly what you said. It's a court setting. He has the base there so that he can.
Yeah, it's like standing on the tiles.
On the tiles.
So there's definitely. As tiles should have like grooves between each slate, and then the pattern. I'm not sure you can see it on here because
it's kind of an angle,
But there's the kind of diamond-shaped patterns within each square, and then with the grey outlines that goes around each slate.
Yeah.
So there's definitely patterns there, and then I was saying, the gravel. Yeah, is it gravel? Gavel. Sorry,
gavel.
It's the gavel. So it's kind of like. Kind of a dark. What's the colour? What's the colour of this?
Dark brown.
Dark brown? Yeah.
Yeah. And it gives it that's sort of the inspiration behind this. One thing I forgot to mention. One of the things I wanted to sort of say is on the inside over here, Chops, on the inside over here, I'm going to give it a darker wash, a darkening, because right now it's the same colour as the suit. So I'm going to give it a darker blue, just to give it a kind of sense of more shadowy feeling of that. Over there.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to let people know whilst it was still in my mind, Chunks. So that is pretty much top to bottom a bit of the understanding and the concept behind the pose, the details, and what you can expect, and the understanding of the base as well. Shall we go on to the next question, Chunks?
All right. Okay. Next question from Nanase again. Did you consider implementing a motion sensor speaker into this statue so Phoenix can shout his famous line when in close proximity?
That's a great question. The answer was no, it never came across my mind, and the reason why is because this is something that's been in the works for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But since then we have done a Aku mask from Crash Bandicoot where it does have a proximity sensor and it does sort of say his famous words. Now, that's definitely not something that we had considered for Phoenix because, as I said, it was done for quite long ago. But I think one of the things about that is it had a certain thickness to the base that you would need to have it to have the speakers. We had an ability to kind of hide it quite nicely in Aku mask. Maybe not so easy for something like this, but it's definitely something that you can download an app and just push it every time. No, but I appreciate what you're saying. The answer was no, it never crossed my mind. But if things were different, maybe it would have, obviously it is quite iconic for him. What license or permitting, whether or not that would be something that could have been done, who knows? But ultimately, it never crossed my mind back in the day. Alright, so, Chocks, this is the standard version of Phoenix Wright. So what you see is what you get. You get Phoenix busting out his pose, beautiful clothing, fierce face, his hand is out like that, he's got it all there.
It shouts Phoenix Wright. Apart from the iconic pose, everyone knows his kind of slick hairstyle and his iconic blue suit. Not very often you see lawyers or attorney folks.
Again, it sounds like you're talking from personal experience.
Not everyone can wear a nice pink tie, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not quite pink, but
not quite pink.
Ready pink.
Yeah. Awesome.
And of course with this base as well.
Base, yeah.
So there is, of course, for those that don't know, we often have an exclusive version for our pieces, and Phoenix Wright is no exception, Chocks. And we would love to show you a Phoenix Wright exclusive version in 3, 2, 1. Boom! Check it out, guys. The exclusive version comes with this shouting portrait of Phoenix Wright, shouting out objection, shouting out take that, shitting out hold it, all that good stuff. He is there in a kind of more aggressive shouting kind of stance. Yeah.
Just upped it another level.
Should we give it a bit of a turn now that you can sort of see? It changes the dynamics of it. Obviously, he still has the same eyes looking to the left. He still has that same hairstyle. He still has all of that. The only difference, of course, is his mouth is he's sort of shouting, and he's got. You can sort of see that the jawline comes down, and obviously it's much now closer. The jaw is much closer to the shirt, and it makes, which obviously makes sense. So it's like, hold it.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit loud. Still sounds loud. One last time. I think he's objecting. Absolutely. So it's got all of that same, all of the same stuff as the regular version as well, with this exclusive, in order to give it that sense of that sort of shouting, and we think it really, if that's something that you like, you have the choice. Some days you feel just like shouting, and some days you're just okay to keep your mouth closed, Chocks. Yeah. How are you feeling today, Chocks? Are you an open man? Are you a shouting man today, or a stoic glowing?
For a while, actually, not today. So yeah, with the shouting pose, it's not just opening the mouth. You can still see the teeth, and you can still see the tongue as well.
Absolutely. So there's more detail involved in that, because of course you have to consider painting.
Still keeping that kind of cartoony look.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's got it all. Yeah, still keeping all of that. And for your reference, here is the regular head. Okay, and it's held on by a magnet, Chocks. Simple as that. Interchangeable. Take it in, take it out, so you can sort of see them side by side. That's a better idea. That's 10. Who are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Sorry. Fun for days. Fun for days. Anything else you want to add on that, Chocks?
No, so there you go. That's the exclusive version, yes. 2 heads in total, the same pose and the same base.
Cool. Yeah. All right, Chocks. Should we go into a bit of the measurements? Let's say
indeed, yeah.
You've been watching this, you know what, I'm a massive Ace Attorney fan. Phoenix Wright deserves to be on my shelf. I want to know, is it going to fit in my collection? Well, we have some answers for you. First of all, we're going to kick it off with a can test. This is a 330 ml can. Now, of course, this is 1/6 scale. That's not even enough.
It's enough. It's enough.
No, it's not.
Just enough.
No, it's not. This is a 1/6 scale, meaning that a 6-foot human is about 12 inches tall. It's not enough.
Only ever so tiny.
So very, very shy of 3 cans high, is Phoenix Wright. So just very, very shallow. And remember, this is 330 ml cans. So for our American family over the, in America, you're more used to maybe 355, something like that. So
55,
just sort of slightly adjust for that. But yeah, so the 330 ml cans, it is just over 3 of them. So it's been a while since we've done a piece that's been in this sort of scale. There's been quite a lot of talk about those 1/4 scales where they're obviously generally 18 inches tall.
Yeah.
To have this at sort of 12 inches tall, it's kind of like a throwback to how we used to do stuff back in the day.
So I mean, obviously over time, our pieces have been getting larger and larger as well, but we still work on the smaller scale.
Sure, 5 years ago, mate. Well, this is 5 years ago coming through, isn't it?
True, yeah. But we're still working on the smaller scales.
Some stuff moving forward. So we've got a few things. Well, a lot of that is the smaller scales, and also to do with our sort of TFs, PVCs, and stuff like that as well.
All right, so let's do the measurements. Pretty straightforward. This should really fit in any
shelf
cabinet. Yeah. So from the bottom of the base to top of the hair, I have that just a little bit over 13.5 inches high. So that's roughly about 35 centimeters.
Yep, manageable, very easy.
So, the actual statue himself is probably around about 12 inches and about an inch and a half for the base.
Yeah.
And then assuming this is going to be the standard pose, the width, I have that around about 8 inches across. So that's around about 20 centimeters. And then the depth, because the finger is pointing slightly in front of the base, I have that around about 10 inches. So that's 26 centimeters.
The only thing is, Chops, it depends if you're going to hold it out. If you're going to have it straight out like that, that's a certain length.
Right.
And is that what you've been taking into for the depth?
Because into depth, yeah. So like that.
Because some people won't necessarily point it like that. It'd be more like that, maybe.
Right. But you should still try and at least allow at least 10 to 11 inches. Square.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, square shape. Just
to say, as I say, it's not quite as simple as this would be the longest, but I think most people will sort of pose him more like the reference, the iconic imagery. But it could be wrong. It could be pointing more like that. Your collection, you can choose.
Point wherever you want.
I beg your pardon.
So the weight of this,
not
too heavy, not too light. I have this around about 2.3 kgs.
Just what it says it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
There you go, 2.3 kg. So yeah, it's very much, hopefully you can fit into a lot of collections quite easily, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, what's next, Chocks?
Next, shout-outs.
Shout-outs.
So
what are
they? Yeah, what are they? Basically, earlier on in the video, we were saying we will create a post in the Collectors Club. In there, randomly, I will stick a comment and say first 10 people to reply to that comment will get a shout-out from Alex. And make sure you always keep a lookout for those shout-outs.
All right, without further ado, Derek Baker, shout out to him again. Dean Evans, how's it going, mate? Shout out to you, Alessio Bucci, what's going on? Neil Robinson, how you doing? Joe Amodio, shout out to you. Got Sumkram Sibat, how you doing? Shout out to Nanase as well. I was glad that he got himself a shout out.
Yeah, great.
Alexandro Dulu, big shout out to you and Francesco Music. And last but not least, Damien Bell, how's it going? Shout out.
Nice one.
Cool. All right, Chocks, I believe we have a few more questions.
Yes. Next question from Alessio Bucci. Is there a definitive edition?
Now, what on earth is a definitive? Well, it's kind of a new concept here over at First Figures. It's only something that we have been sort of playing about with over time. And that's basically something that's a little bit more definitive than the exclusive, giving us a little bit more, how shall I say, flexibility with some of the creative things that we could do, and some of the reason why Phoenix was delayed is because whilst we had the standard and the exclusive as so, we thought, you know what, it would be nice to have a definitive for Phoenix, and we went on to create that. And I said, because this is quite a new concept for us, it actually led to the delay of Phoenix. We could have launched him like this quite a few years ago, quite a while ago, but we wanted to actually add something a little bit extra for the definitive, to which we are going to show you in exactly 3, 2, 1. Boom! Check it out, guys, the definitive version of Phoenix Wright. Absolutely awesome to incorporate the bench from the actual courtroom. So he's literally like just been pulled out of the game. There he is on the bench, shouting out objection, shouting out take that, shouting out hold it, all that sort of stuff. And we really wanted to do that and have that incorporated in the definitive edition. Now, what was kind of important for us is that, you know, we brought this into it, but also it's kind of like a little bit of a shame, to be honest with you, because you don't actually see his legs or anything like that below it. So you could have almost just gone, you know what, this is the statue, and then cut off all the legs and this is what it looked like. But it's nice to know, if we give it a bit of a turn, that of course you see, that you at least know that you have the rest of Phoenix right there, and the reason why he's doing the pointing and the reason why he's doing all of that sort of stuff. You can understand the flow of it. And of course, if you ever go up to it and have a look and don't poke your own eye out, of course you can definitely see that Phoenix Wright is actually standing there. So, but as you know from the game, the most iconic angle, of course, is just like that. So it makes sense for it to. But of course, as this is 3D, of course, you need to make sure that you can see it from all angles. So let's talk a little bit about the actual piece itself, because it's quite a bit bigger. Now, going back to the whole idea of the fact that you only see half of him in the definitive, some people might actually want to see more of him than actually you would actually normally see, because it is a physical 3D model. So that is the reason why we actually have, of course, kept, this is a definitive version, so we've obviously made sure that you can get the standard or exclusive base, I should say, included in the definitive pack. So you get both of them, because we wanted to make sure that, by its definition, definitive must mean it should include everything from the standard and the exclusive version. So the definitive version comes with both of these chocks. So, of course, we talked it comes with the bench, but let's talk a little bit more about that bench itself. So, should we talk about those details?
Yeah, so obviously we're trying to achieve the wood effect. This is all resin, this is very shiny in comparison to Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, there's a definite difference between the gloss versus the clothing on here, the matte of that.
And so you can see the different sculpt lines, the different thickness of the grooves, moving down from the top of the bench all the way down to the edges, moving into the front panels. These are all sculpted in. There's actually grooves along these rectangular shapes, and then obviously overall the entire wood grain effect. Some of the wood grains going horizontal on the top surface and then vertical down the middle, down the sides.
Absolutely, and you've got that sort of that paneling effect. And of course, the definitive, as we said, includes with everything that's in the standard version. So of course, chocks, you can have the. You can have the standard head on there as well.
So these are interchangeable heads.
Interchangeable head
with a magnet.
With the magnets.
Yeah, much easier.
Much easier. So, it really is pulling it from that scene. The question is, would you pose him with the standard head or the exclusive head in front of the bench or without the bench? Well, with a definitive, you can choose. You can decide how you want to display him. Maybe today you're feeling like this, today you're feeling like that. Would you be, what would you do, Chocks? How would you display yours?
Well, straight from the game. I want everything.
You want it all, right? But yeah, so I'd probably go with...
More options the better.
More options the better. And of course, how you feel today versus tomorrow. Or alter our weekly meetings. Can make you want to change exactly how you want to display your Phoenix, right? So I would love to hear from you guys. How would you display your definitive version? Would you put it behind the bench? Would you get the definitive, but also mainly display it on the standard base, or what have you? there's other choices that you could you could choose. And I'd love to hear what you guys would do with that. So for sure, Chocks, let's should we kick? I think we should go into some of the measurements on that, because I bet you though, it's going to be no different in height because the actual height of the standard version itself, so if we bring that back over here, standard / exclusive version, is exactly the same, so there should be no different. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chocks.
No, it's just exactly the same. In fact,
nice.
You want to hold it up as well,
sure.
Guys can see actually the surface as well. So now we're saying what we were saying earlier on with the exclusive base is the tile effect.
Yeah, that's right.
And then for the measurements I gave you earlier, this is 8 inches by 8 inches. Mm-hmm. So that's around about 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. But for this one, the DE edition with the bench is very, very heavy. The base is much wider. I have that at 11 inches by 11 inches, circular base. So that's
3 extra inches.
Yeah, so that's 28 centimeters by 28 centimeters.
And of course, that would mean that the bottom of the base, I should say the top of the base, you can fit more tiles. Compared to this one, because you have 3 extra inches.
That's right. Height-wise, they're exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. So I don't need to bust up the cans.
Yeah, so that's 13.5 inches, so that's 34 centimeters. The weight, though, the bench, including Phoenix Wright, I have that at 7.37 kgs.
It's a bit heavy, isn't it, Shocks?
Yeah, and if you want to know the weight of the actual smaller base, that is at 1.7 kg.
So actually, if you put it all together, this whole thing, it's coming up to sort of 9.
It's over 10.
Over 10.
It's over 10 already, yeah. If you include everything.
If you include everything, yeah. Maybe what you could do is actually, as a definitive, you could actually put that out and put, let's say you got a 1/6 scale character. Could go in nicely. Put it on there. Put it next to each other.
Or if you actually got a hammer at home. I'm not saying destroy it, I'm saying to replicate that gavel effect.
Right, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely how you wish to play with your definitive.
That's right.
Behind the comfort of your own home, Chocks.
Objection, no hammer on that.
I like it. Yeah, so it's got a nice little weight to that as well. I like it. All right, good. So, I believe there's one more question before we wrap this up, Chocks.
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, James Harper. If we get more characters in the future, will they need to be based on dual destinies, or are any of the games fair game?
That's a great question. The answer is we'd love to hear your feedback. What would you like to see? Let us know in the feedback, in the comments, in the on the YouTube video, or on Facebook, or in our group. Love to hear what you guys would like to see. Would you like to see Miles? Who would you like to see next? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Let us know. All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching this documentary. We really appreciate the support of doing that. And Chocks, that's another one wrapped up.
Hold it! Objection!
You're absolutely right, Phoenix. Thanks for reminding us. We almost forgot. Comes with a great objection sign here that you can place wherever you want on your shelf where you want to display him, and that is just comes and places that wherever you want.
This is kind of a floaty effect.
Yeah, it depends exactly where you want to place it in your on your shelf. It just sort of enhances any Phoenix Wright display. Maybe you have the actual game there as well. Maybe you have some other merchandise that sort of go with it. Now, of course, this is the part of the definitive edition. Chocks, we got a height on that.
Yes, I have that at 16 inches high, so that's around about 41 centimeters.
Love it.
Yep.
And of course, we didn't actually just leave it with the objection. Chocks, we're going to bring in the other one as well. Take that, and all done in that beautiful font that you have in the game that you see throughout it.
That bright, vibrant kind of shouting, slogan.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that kind of goes in nicely with the shouting portrait from the exclusive.
Yeah.
But you could also put it for the standard one as well. However you wish to display, the choice is yours. So there you have it, guys. The definitive version comes with this extra base, with a great looking bench, these two pieces over here, which will just enhance that collection just a little bit more. Of course, the standard base as well. That's quite a lot of stuff in the definitive, but of course, that is the reason why it is called the definitive version. Right, Chocks.
Right.
I believe that's it. Is there any more objections? Any more take that? Any more holes in? Can we wrap this one up?
I believe that's Case closed.
I love it. All right,
Right.
Jocks, that's a nice one. Thank you so much for joining us on this. Finally, we can put this one, case closed, absolutely all that good stuff. So, cool. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Chuckles.
F4F is love.
F4F is life.
I will see you in the next one. Peace!
Laters.